Hello, good evening, everyone. Great to see all of you and on time. Thank you for switching on video. Kumar, I believe, would love to see some more faces on camera. We'll wait for 1 more minute while everyone else joins in. I would request you all to switch on camera, bandwidth permitting, while we get started with our webinar for today. Thank you for being Vasant Kumar Dibbarahun. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. We will get started in a minute. Sunitra, requesting your support with muting anyone who comes in.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Utkarsh. Do we wait for a minute more or do we get started, Sunitra? Can we get started?
Let's get started. Yeah.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our last webinar for February. We will be in conversation with Shreyas. Currently an alumni, he was a fellow in the 2021 cohort of the fellowship. We can go to the next slide. Before we begin, we will set some norms for today's space. Like I mentioned earlier, would be great to have everybody have their videos on. Since it is a conversation with Shreyas, it would be good to have audio off, that is mic switched off, so we can listen to what Shreyas is sharing with us, or even anybody else on call. It'll be great to get a lot of questions from you. We will have dedicated time for Q&A in the last part of today's webinar, about 15 minutes or so. You can post your questions on chat or come off mute and ask them during Q&A. And finally, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom so that one person gets to speak at a time and do not cut each other off. Alternatively, like I said, you can use the chat feature actively. We can go next, Sunita. A little bit about today's agenda. We will have a very short overview of the Bhumi Fellowship. A very short check-in. We usually begin with one every webinar and we'll continue to do that today. Post which we will spend about 20-25 minutes interacting with Shreyas, followed by a Q&A, after which we'll close out. On screen, you will see the vision and mission of the Bhumi Fellowship, which is to achieve equitable education for all children. Yeah, thank you, Jaren. Would be great if you could mute yourself. I hope I am audible now. Yeah.
Yes.
We work with primary school children in government and government-aided schools across Chennai at the moment. And our vision is to achieve equity in education for everyone, to ensure that every child gets an excellent education. How we do this is through our fellows who are in schools currently, who work with schools for a period of 2 years, and then go on and be a part of the education sector and go ahead and make impact in whatever capacity excites them the most. Shreyas being one of them, is currently working with community champions right now. More on that later. But this is essentially the fellowship in a nutshell. We can go ahead. What makes the Bhumi Fellowship unique is the whole school transformation approach. We believe in not just working with children, but the school as a system itself. And there are 4 main aspects to it, which you can see on screen. Classroom teaching being the first one, followed by active community participation, teacher professional development, which we also do by working very closely with our socio-emotional learning team. And finally, capacity building of HMs, more so in terms of supporting HMs or school leaders with respect to school development, but more on that through today's conversation. Would love to hear from everybody regarding this. Since today is a lot about community as well, curious to know, what does the word community mean to all of you? And I would invite everyone to share on chat. Meanwhile, Shreyas, if you would like to unmute and share.
Yeah, so hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and to be back here with Bhumi. And so something that comes to my mind when you say the community is where people are together with a common hope is what I would say. Hope is something that binds people together. Generally we take geographical locations as community, but I would say anything else as well. An online community will still be a community to me. So I think anywhere where people interact on a regular basis with some set, goals and hopes in mind, and I think that is something that yeah, that's what community means to me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Shreyas. I think for me personally, it means I just realized I was talking on mute. Uh, I hope I'm audible now. Yeah, a hope is pretty positive and optimistic. I think for me personally, when I think of community, I think of people that I'm surrounded by on a day-to-day basis, and something that gives me a lot of joy, essentially, celebrating small things or even ideating things, making change. So people and the joy that I get by interacting with them, getting some interesting responses on chat. Uh, Jeevanandam is talking about following some principles. Okay, same group of people, but characterized by diversity, interesting joy, common interests, values, geographical locations. Definitely, I think this kind of encapsulates what the fellowship means. I think for both me and Shreyas personally. Will introduce myself while we are checking in. Would love to hear some more responses from everyone on call. I was part of the first cohort of the fellowship, and then I stayed on with me full time. I'm currently a program manager at the fellowship, and I've seen the community of fellows and team also growing in the last 4 years. And it's been very heartwarming because it feels like 4 years in, we're finally making some inroads towards school transformation. And looking forward to have more of you on call, hopefully join us in the near future. Yes, support, helping people. Great. Would request you to keep your responses coming in. Also, would like for you to think about what it means to you personally. Group of people, yes, definitely. But what does a community mean to you, right? We'll move on. Now that I've kind of introduced myself, Shreyas, if you would like to share a little bit about yourself, where you're from, why did you join the Bhumi Fellowship?
Yeah. So just to add that I'm also a proud member of this Bhumi community, though I'm not actually working in the organization. So I'm born and brought up in Chennai. Like I've been here for the past 25 years of my life, and I finished my MBA. And after graduation, I worked with Amazon for about a year and a half, and then I got into the social sector. That is, I started with a Bhumi fellowship where I did teaching for 2 years, and then now I'm doing. I like Bhumi Fellowship so much that I had gone jumped in into another fellowship called Phule Ambedkar Fellowship, and now I'm doing that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Shreyas. So, why the Bhumi Fellowship? You talked about being at Amazon, but why make the switch from being there to coming to the social sector and education specifically?
So I would say that COVID played a major role in my life. While working at Amazon, my job was quite monotonous in nature. Day in and day out, I used to do the same stuff. And during COVID, I got an opportunity to raise funds for daily wage laborers, and as well as make sure they get certain amount about 7,000 rupees transferred to their bank accounts. So to each of those daily wage laborers. So I was able to impact around 200 to 300 families directly, and the way they in which they responded back, and they heartfelt, they wished me back and blessed me and stuff, that got me thinking was a direct impact I was able to see. And that's how I volunteered with Bhumi, and I was like, okay, this is a nice opportunity to switch to the social sector, and that's how I made the jump. Well, overall as well, one of the key decisions is also, I think social sector problems are very interesting in nature and very tough to solve. So I think that's what got me interested in it, and that made me jump from Amazon to Bhumi Fellowship.
Yeah, I mean, COVID was a pretty tough time for a lot of people, and I think while everyone else shut down, the social sector was kind of thriving, which is not ideal. something we say very commonly is that social work will truly be successful when there is no need for the sector and the work at all. Um, but it was also a tough time to join a fellowship itself because it was largely virtual when you first joined. So, thinking about your fellowship experience overall, if you had to describe it in one sentence, what would that be?
So I would say it's a period, it's a 2 year period of, professional and personal growth. Let it be with skill as well as values. I think values wise, I would say that's the biggest importance. 2 year growth in my value system, and yeah, I would say that that's the fellowship journey for me.
Can you tell us a little bit more about it? How was the experience, your role as a fellow, and how is it that it led to your value system being developed over the 2 years?
Yeah. So as I joined the fellowship, the first period was our training period, and there we got into some amount of orientation on who are the different stakeholders in the school system. So one of the important things in Bhumi Fellowship is we just don't teach children, but we also engage with the HMs in the school, the teacher community, as well as the parent community. So that's why the whole school transformation is something that got me interested in it a lot. So in those 1 or 2 months, we got trained on how to engage with these stakeholders, and so after that, the COVID also stopped, and we got into these schools, and so after engaging with adults for a 30-year-old adults, getting into classroom of 10-year-old kids was completely a different to me, and getting used to that itself took me around 3 to 4 months. So I think the first year or so was focused on within the classroom and classroom teaching, and more so we were focusing on our ability, growing our ability to teach kids in English and math. So I think this would be the first part of the journey that I was part of. And so in the second part of the journey, I would say more so the projects that we all had to, or even you guys when you join the fellowship, you will have to do in the second year, was the focus in the second year. But I chose to work with the community and take up the project. So the second year fully was focused on it. Coming back to the question on values, so just to be very direct, I wasn't a very environmentally conscious person, or I would say, or I would be extremely frank and straightforward in nature. At times, also going to a place of maybe I might hurt people and stuff like that. But engaging with people here and the culture of Bhumi and people centric culture here, it changed me a lot and made me more empathetic and more taking more ownership over how we can make others feel better. So I think these are certain ways in which I've become much more a better person. I would like to think so in the last 2 years.
Yeah, definitely. Although I've experienced you in similar ways as empathetic, always having high ownership. But interesting that you spoke about two parts of the fellowship, right? First year, more focused on classroom, getting comfortable with working with 10-year-olds. Most of us don't have any kind of teaching experience before this, very new for all of us. What kind of shifts did you experience from the first year to the second year of the fellowship, and how did you kind of adapt?
Yeah. So I think the major shift from the first year to second year would be the amount of there's this term called gradual release of responsibility. So we have this program manager, like how Anjali is a program manager. I had my own program manager. He guided me a lot through, his name is Lokesh. So in the first year, a lot of guidance would be given by him. And in any intervention that I took, let it be with the HMs or the teachers, parents, and even within the classroom, had a lot of support. So the shift would be like from being 100% holding and going through a review process and all that stuff. Slowly I was given the responsibility of taking stuff up and completely executing it. So I think that ownership level increase from maybe from a 25% to 100% would be the shift from first year to second year. And I think maybe can I just expand a little bit on this? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I would say one major example for this would be in the first year, maybe even if I'm facilitating a session within the school, I would have my managers come and support me in facilitation and all that stuff. From this, at the end of my second year, we were able to host an event called Teachers Express. for around 25 schools, and my school also played the host for it. So I also took a lead in hosting around 200 people in that space. So in which completely the ownership was taken by us fellows, and I was able to lead it as well. So I think that shift is something that I would say is the major shift that happened between the first year and the second year.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking about Teachers Express, it's happening tomorrow. This time we're having teachers from across 40, 50 schools, I believe, in Chennai. And great to see that we're growing and again thinking about community, expanding the Bhumi community itself and having more teachers on board. Personally, think you did a great job leading. Shreyas took a very kind of participatory approach, involved everybody in the process, and that was also really nice, a learning for all of us to see how people exactly can lead when they're working on a major event like this. Any knowledge, skills, mindsets that helped you in this, Shreyas?
Yeah, so I think, like you said, the this whole experience, I think a few things that I would like to say as the skills maybe is one would be the conflict resolution that you need to take place in during the entire period of your fellowship. There are a lot of conflicts, let it be between teachers or HMs and teachers, or within your own ideas and what the school wants from you. So all these, take a lot of conflict resolution that needs to be done there. And another skill would be the overall facilitation skills that happen there. So you need to facilitate a lot of spaces for all the stakeholders. So I think that is another skill that I improved over the period of time. While with regards to knowledge, I would say the whole education system, understanding about it, about the systemic issues that's there, right? Yeah, everything seems like I'll go in and I'll change the whole system. I'll change education in like 2 years and come back out, but it's not like that. You just get in, and it takes 2 years to understand the whole system, uh, how and what kind of issues each stakeholder face. Well, with regards to mindsets, I would say is um so one or two places, the ability to have patience, right? So that is an important mindset that I had developed over a period of 2 years, because like you mean you come in with full energy and passion, but at times it's not reciprocated from the system. So how you are able to persevere, how you are able to stay patient and transfer your energy to the other stakeholders there matters a lot. So I think that is an important thing that I would say stood with me and helps me in now as well.
Right. Very interesting what you spoke about energy and transferring it to other stakeholders, even in challenging situations, which also leads me to believe you would have faced many challenges in the fellowship. So, would you like to talk about some of the challenges you faced? And if you were able to overcome them, then how was it you did so?
So when you mentioned the challenges of a fellowship, I would say the fellowship itself as a whole journey is full of challenges, and I think it's about the cohort, the people that are there with you to take you over these challenges is what I would say is the whole journey. But to just keep it straight up, I would just like to mention like two challenges. So one I would like to say it from a personal perspective as well as one from a systemic lens. So from a systemic lens, like I mentioned, the ability to motivate the other stakeholders, right? Because you are very passionate about the system, you want to come in and change it, improve it. But what happens is they're there and they're there for 30 years, right? So at times you get tired of it and you're also burdened by the system. So I think the ability to motivate them, like, take them, make them co-partners, collaborators, and also make them take ownership of sessions or interventions was one big challenge that was there. And the personally one challenge which I would say is, so I was working in a corporate job, and maybe people who are working from a corporate job would know our work is very monotonous in nature, right? Our skills are very specialist in nature. While the fellowship requires you to be a very generalist in nature. So it's like going breadth across the education system or the work that you're like. I've written scripts for YouTube videos. I've organized an event. I've gone on community visits, and so there's n number of things. I've written blogs and stuff. So there's n number of things that you need to do, and you need to do a lot of stuff for each and every stakeholder. It's not like you're just going into the class, teaching children, and coming back, but it is also it is also you work with all the other three stakeholders. So I think here major challenge that I found was my ability to do a multitask and also make sure the quality of work stays high. Yeah, I will say these are challenges. Did you ask me about how I went about it?
Anything that helped you overcome the challenges if you were able to do
Mm,
so?
yeah. So I would like to say for the second one that I mentioned, Lokesh, my manager, stood like a rock beside me, and because at times you feel a little bit demotivated and stuff. So I think he taught me about a concept called deep work, and so here what happens is at different parts of day for whatever task you want to do. Like just to simplify it here, if I'm focusing on students, then maybe 1 hour of every day I could take that specific period of time to focus on all interventions I'm doing with students. Same thing if I'm planning my project with the parent committee, I'll take certain amount of every day to plan and do that stuff. So ability to do deep work and focus deep work instead of being here, there, and everywhere is one of the key skills that I developed over this period of second year, and I'm able to take it even to my new job in intersection.
That's great to hear, right? Speaking of Indus Action, there's also a question on chat. Upendra has asked, what is career after completing the fellowship? So for context, Shreyas is currently doing the Phule Ambedkar Fellowship initiated by Indus Action, one of India's biggest, I would say, or most important kind of social organizations currently working to implement policies at grassroots level. So Shreyas, how did you end up going from the Bhumi Fellowship to another fellowship at Indus Action? And yeah, what is it that you're doing there right now?
So yeah, I think more or less you would have a brief overview of what happened in my fellowship journey. I think at the end of the 2 years, the last 3 months is focused on our career prospects and how we are going to go next. And here, our managers have deep discussions on how we wanted how we look at long term vision for our career and what kind of space we want to be and stuff like that. So what happened was in my conversations with my manager, I came to know that my passion lies with the community, and even my project is and was focused on community development. So I would say this led me into looking for opportunities where there are spaces where I can work with the community, and that's how I found out there's this fellowship called Phule Ambedkar Fellowship, where I get to work with community leaders from different parts of India, and I get to manage them. So here I saw this as a very nice opportunity, and I took this up. So I think that's the brief journey of how my interest in community got me into this fellowship.
Right. And as Shreyas mentioned, we usually have a series of conversations with all fellows. I went through it too, and that's how I ended up at Bhumi. And it takes about 2 to 3 months where we spend time talking about prospective career paths and where we can end up. And for Shreyas, that was at the Phule Ambedkar Fellowship in Chennai. So I think you've already kind of addressed it. Shreyas, any specific support that you received for your post-fellowship journey that you want to talk about, something that you've already not covered so far?
Also, one thing, guys. So she told Phule Ambedkar Fellowship in Chennai, but no, this has led me into traveling across, the country and across a lot of communities. Like this opportunity has, made me go and visit communities and in Bhopal. Now I'm going to UP to visit communities in Tirunelveli, in Chennai, across a lot of places in India. So I think Bhumi has opened up that opportunity to me as well. So that's something that I'm sorry, I forgot the question that you asked me.
Any specific support that you received for the post-fellowship journey?
Yeah, so like I said, the 3 months that before you finish your fellowship, so our fellowship finishes around April, May time. So from around January, we start working. That is our manager and ourselves. We start working on seeing what kind of work we want to do. Like there are four stakeholders. Even in my batch, one fellow started working with school HMs, school leaders. Manasa and Parvati, who are working Bhumi, are working on sexual education with children and stuff like that. So there's various stakeholders that are there, and our interest is something that we deeply reflect on, and our managers help us in finding those interests. And from that, let it be in this for me personally, my manager helped me, let it be from designing my resume to, helping me, reviewing my pre-works for the application and all the stuff. He completely helped me, guided me through the whole process. And I think I think that had gone well. That's why I'm in this job right now. So I think that there was this complete support that I got from him. Let it be from identifying to applying everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I have a smile hearing you speak. Makes me nostalgic also in some ways. Last question for you from my end, Shreyas, before we move into Q&A. What is it that you see yourself doing in the long term? If you had to share a vision that you have for the future, what would it be?
I'm a very curious person by nature. So I think I ask a lot of questions. I keep wanting to learn a lot. So I think as a personal value or in an everyday routine, I want my job or whatever I do in life to be a space where I keep learning every day and I keep growing every day. That would be a very philosophical answer. While to be very specific on what sector or something I want to work with, I would say I'm very much interested in in politics as well as local self governance and where community development. So the intersection of local self governance and community development, that's a space that I'm looking at in the long term to be involved in.
And I'm very excited for what that future looks like. I feel like there's a lot to be explored in that sector even now. We will open the space up for Q&A. Would like to request everyone to keep questions centered around the fellowship and the fellowship journey. We have Shreyas here with us also. Anything related to recruitment, I would urge you all to ask over email or, yeah, after the call, maybe. Sunetra, I think that's okay. Or we will try to address anything recruitment related in the last 2 to 3 minutes, but would like to ask all questions to be centered around the fellowship itself.
I could say one thing. You have a bunch of very motivated candidates, and everyone is like pushing hard to get in the fellowship. It's very nice to see this. Yeah.
Yeah, and considering our policy is not to exclude anybody, if everybody does well, we take everybody on board, right? So if all of you do well, hopefully all of you will be part of our cohort in 2024, and that'll be great. Maybe one question here, which is regarding do we have to move to Chennai alone? Shubham Nishrat has asked this. So actually, we've grown. Next year onwards, the fellowship is going to be in 3 cities in Tamil Nadu. Chennai, of course, along with Trichy and Coimbatore. So yeah, you will still have to move to Tamil Nadu if you're not from here, but it's not just Chennai. We are going to be in 3 cities from next year, and we're very excited about the same. Suveta, yeah.
I have a question. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Nitin, go ahead.
Hi, Shreyas. Good evening. My name is Nitin, and I have a question that what is your motivation to do this fellowship, or what changes it brings after this fellowship? That means, what are the changes on your personal life as well as the professional life? What are the transformations this fellowship bring to you before the fellowship and after the fellowship? What changes had been created? Because you had a mindset before engage before joining the fellowship. You had a mindset, and after that, what are the changes that happen in your character as well as your professional life as well as your personal life? Hello.
Right. Shreyas, are you here? I don't see Shreyas on call. Maybe Nitin, you can wait on that question while we wait for Shreyas to join back.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
he
I will
just
wait.
got dropped off. He's joining from his phone.
No worries. Joy has a question. When will the fellowship start? The fellowship is starting in May this year. We are starting our first training period in May, followed by a second one in June, after which you will be placed in schools in one of the 3 cities that we're working with. Yeah, I hope that answers your question, Joy. we'll wait for a minute for Shreyas to join back. In the meantime, any other questions regarding the fellowship, community development, or anything else at all?
B. Suveta has a question, Anjali. How the fellowship part totally will be in Chennai and how we supposed to work with children.
Right. So the fellowship is a 2-year full-time opportunity, and all fellows will be placed in one school, which could be a government or a government-aided school, could also be a low-income private school in some cases, or an affordable private school, as we call it. You will receive training for 1 month after joining the fellowship. This will include classroom teaching, engaging with stakeholders like teachers, HMs, and parents, after which you will be placed in your school, where you will be assigned one classroom, a primary grade classroom, either grade 2, grade 3, or grade 4, depending on which year of intervention the school is at. Post which you will be supported by a program manager, like Shreyas was saying, who will be with you on your 2-year journey and giving you inputs as you go. Shreyas, I see you're back. Would you like to respond to Nitin's question?
Yeah, yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Sorry guys. Sorry, my laptop just ran out of battery. I've just joined from my phone. So Nitin, two things that I would say is one thing I had also prepared like a quote for this question. So it's like being comfortable, being uncomfortable. So through the journey, before the journey, I was very not risk taking and very safe and sound. I don't like to take much risks. But because at different places with different stakeholders, you are put in very uncomfortable and difficult situations where you will have to have this friction and in which you grow. So I think that is one important change in me, which is also in this action, this has led me to take ownership of a lot of projects, and I've also completed a lot of projects. Successfully with in this action because of that one specific skill that Bhumi got me trained for. And secondly, like I mentioned in the earlier part of the call, I think generally, personally, as a person, I think let it be my value systems. I think it has changed a lot, and I've grown over this period of 2 years with Bhumi a lot personally. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Shreyas. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
I see that Gulafsha has a question on chat. Any one exceptional experience which can inspire us? Shreyas, anything memorable or a huge highlight from the fellowship that you would like to share?
Give me a second to think. Yeah. So I think this is extremely, I think, very inspiring, at least very motivating even for me personally. So what happens is in a low income schools, generally parents aren't much involved in the students' education, or let it be even like active participation, let it be in PTM meetings and stuff like that. With my school being also a low income private school, there wasn't many SMCs, right? And what happened was I worked with the teachers and the HM and created an SMC where the parents, started participating in it. And generally, what happens is in SMC, it is very much a HM talking for about 45 minutes and then thanking everyone, making them go away. But here, the system was a little bit where parents can give suggestions and all that stuff. And I think one important thing what happened was in that space, school management committee. I'm sorry for missing that out. So what happened in that space was the parents who nominated the school leaders felt a lot empowered. And one of my highlights of the whole project I felt was the previous sports day. I think less than 25% of the parents turned up. But because these parents had a voice in the school management committee, they took up this responsibility of calling other parents to the sports day. And I think about 80-85% of all the parents turned up for that particular sports day. And even the HM and let it be correspondent of the whole school recognized the parents' hard work in bringing other parents in. So I thought this was one of the places where I could see the power of community coming in and helping each other out. So I think that was a very strong incident that stays in my mind still.
Yeah, and what's been inspiring, adding on to Shreyas' story, since I'm still working with the school that Shreyas was placed at how a teacher, Praveen sir, has taken up the school management committee and is still working with the school has a new HM now. So there is a change in school leadership, but Praveen sir and the fellow at the school currently have gone to speak to the HM and initiate the whole process again and start engaging parents. And they're currently planning for a showcase events to engage parents right now, which is extremely cool, right? Like that a school takes it up and takes it forward even after you leave the fellowship.
Actually, also maybe one more incident that maybe I can share that's not that may not be related to the fellowship. But I'll maybe make it quick so that this may be a very much of an eye opener for others as well, because it was very much an eye opener for me. So it's for number one, like to make it we have Thiruvillas, right? We have a lot of festivals at our hometown and all that stuff, right? And always you see people, you always see, generally a male, pujari, you say, call them, right? Him doing all the pujas and all that stuff, right? But in my community visit, my students called me to their Trivida, and when I went there, I saw that the main priest there was a transgendered woman. So that was an eye-opening stuff, saying that uh, uh, we think, many of us also think that communities are very regressive in nature, but actually there is a lot of progressive thought that can come way down from the bottom up of the society. So that was one eye-opening circumstance where, our own experiences cannot define the world, and once you get into the community and move into it, there's a lot more things that you can learn from that, and which you can take it out to the world. Maybe me saying this incident to you would maybe bring something in you to look into these kind of stuffs in your communities, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes we kind of neglect the space we stay in and around us, and only when we go outside we get that perspective. So thank you for sharing that. We'll take two questions. One from Abu Bakar. Yes, you have your hand raised. Abu Bakar, are you here? Sunatra, can you just check if audio is connected? I'm not so sure.
Can't hear him.
Okay, if you can message and ask them to share on chat, maybe. Joy Michael, Bhumi fellow was working in Amazon before. To a graduate stands an opportunity to be selected. I'll take that. Shreyas, you can add on maybe. As long as you're a graduate and you're above 21 years of age, of course, until the age of 30, because that's our limit for candidates, anyone can apply for the Bhumi Fellowship. I was an architect before. Shreyas worked at Amazon. We have people from business backgrounds, social work backgrounds, literature, psychology backgrounds. All graduates are welcome. And of course, everyone goes through a learning process and we all adapt as we go through the fellowship journey itself. Shreyas, anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, no, I think she's more or less defined what are the eligibility criteria, and there isn't, certain bar of, only these kind of people can join or something like that. And the thing is that the space is as comfortable as it is. That one thing that she's forgotten to mention is there's not uh, people from Tamil Nadu are in a very minority, is what I would say. People from Kerala, Bengal, and all other places are much higher to, the ratio of, Tamil candidates we have. That just shows how inclusive the space is, how inclusive the environment is. You don't need just the language to, work here, is what I would like to say.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. In the current 2023 cohort, we have somebody from Rajasthan. It has been difficult. I'm not going to say it hasn't, but definitely there is space for everyone, and we will support each person based on their needs and requirements. Shubham Patel, you have your hand raised. Would you like to ask the last question for today?
Please, can I ask some more to that previous question?
Joy, I would request you to put it on chat. We would like for more voices to be heard. I hope that's okay. We will respond to your question on voice or chat. Shubham, if you would like to ask your question.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to know about just the language and communication. Is there any Hindi used or only English or Tamil? Just got my answer before this, but I asked his hand before.
Yeah. English and Tamil is not mandatory. Of course, it makes it easier when you have to speak to parents in communities in Chennai, Trichy, and Coimbatore, HMs, and teachers. But with children, we have seen that even fellows who speak only in English engage really well with them. In fact, one of our classrooms that is seeing really good outcomes right now, the fellow is from West Bengal and she's done some incredible work, and her children are speaking in English now. This is grade 3 children I'm talking about. So, English is a must, I would say. And we will, of course, help you improve as you go on your fellowship journey.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. With that, I think we can close out for today. Sunetra, if you could post the link to the website and the application portal on chat. We have our next application deadline coming up. It is on March 31st. Sunetra will be sharing the details on chat. In the meantime, Shreyas, to close out, would you like to share from your perspective, what is one thing everybody should definitely know about the Bhumi Fellowship before joining?
That our teas and samosas are very famous. So that is one thing I'll say everyone should know about the fellowship. But yeah, I would say the basic concept here would I would say like you're coming in to be a teacher or think like just as a teacher and go teach for 2 years and go out. But it is for you to come here, experience the education system in its in its all its with all its stakeholders is what I would say. So that is one thing that would separate this fellowship. Like let it be with the again I said with the HMs, teachers, and the parent community. You get to experience how each of them play a part in the system and what are the struggles that they face here. So that's a very hands-on approach that we have with all the stakeholders of the education system. So I think that is one major takeaway that I got from this fellowship.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And Shreyas, if you're comfortable, would you mind sharing your LinkedIn or your email address to everyone in the room? I believe there are still some unresolved questions, and if anyone would like to know more, they can either write to us on fellowship@bhumi.ngo. Sunetra, if you could post that as well. That's our official email address for all queries related to recruitment or about the fellowship, or if you would like to connect with the team. Alternatively, you can reach out to Shreyas, his email ID is on chat, or to any one of us. We're all on LinkedIn. Happy to see you all here today. We will close out for the day. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you, Shreyas. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Looking forward to seeing you all at the next webinar and also hopefully as Bhumi Fellows in the upcoming cohort.
And thanks, people. All the best. Bye, Anjali. Bye, Sunetra.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am.